Good evening, everybody. We're just making sure everybody's in from the waiting room. Okay. Thank you so much for joining us this evening for a CAMCO board member roundtable. Our topic tonight is welcome to the board of directors. Welcome to your new role. Sort of an introductory session about the things that you've probably been experiencing or will be experiencing as a board member in your community. My name is Erica Alice. I'm a director with CAMCO, and I'm here tonight with Erin Watson, one of our community managers. And we're going to go through this slideshow with you tonight. First, we were thinking we'd like to have you introduce yourselves. If you don't mind, you don't have to, but everyone, if you want to unmute and just say like your name, your community, your role, if you're treasurer, secretary at large, just so we kind of have a feel for who's with us this evening, if you don't mind.
Yes,
Hi.
my name is Tom Marino. I'm member of the Woods at Rock Raymond. I took over for a board member that had to leave the board. So I am the vice president of the board right now. My tenure will be up in November. So I don't know what's going to happen after that.
Welcome.
Thank you. I was on the original board when the Woods at Rock Raymond started in 2006, and I was a member of the board at that time for 7 years.
Okay, so you've got experience. Well, that's
Yes.
good. So you're not just thrown into this exactly. Some people are.
No.
Yeah, okay. Who else?
Hi,
Oh, go ahead.
I'm Jonathan Gave at Bridgeview Place in Old City, Philadelphia. New board member at large. It's my first time serving on a board. I've been very impressed with our CAMCO manager, Valentina Wright. She's been great. So I'm looking forward to learn a lot in this session.
Valentina's great. Bridgeview's a great community too. Well, I'm glad you're here. We're glad you're here.
Thank you. Sorry,
Hi.
Lori.
Hi, I'm Sue Zeger, and I'm with the Colony Park in York, Pennsylvania, and I currently serve as the president.
Hi, I'm Rachel. I'm back here watching too, and I'm the vice president, Colony Park in York, Pennsylvania.
Welcome.
Nice.
Okay.
Good afternoon. I'm Sharon Sidler, and I've been on the boards of the towns at Northwoods Crossing for 7 years. But I was interested in some of your topics, and I thought I'd like to sit in.
Great. And also, this is meant to be interactive, so we would appreciate any of the experienced board members or the newer ones to share your thoughts too as we go through the slides. So this is definitely meant to be interactive, ask questions, throw in ideas, okay? We can all learn from each other. Okay.
Hi, my name
Hi,
is Ryan Arnold. I'm at Pritchard Place in Newtown Square,
Hey, Ryan.
and I've been on for 2 months.
Okay, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Erica, Frank Cole from the, what do we call ourselves? The Vistas at Green Hills in the beautiful Lehigh Valley.
Beautiful.
Newly president. I've been with the on the board for a couple of years now, and also a member of the master board. So there's a lot going on here. So we have some new people who joined our various boards, and I thought I'd come to one of these because it's kind of interesting to know what new people can expect. Even though I've been on the board for some time, it's helpful to translate some information to the newbies who have a lot of questions about what their role really is and how they can help.
I love that. That's a great idea to be able to help your newbies. Also, it'd be good if anybody else has a master association, is part of, or, has one in your community. That would just be helpful to know, because that's a little bit of a different beast too. Okay, we've got Lori. Did you introduce yourself yet?
No, I was trying. Hi, I'm Lori Alfieri. I am with Holiday Village East Condo One Association in Mount Laurel, New Jersey. I was got onto the board as of January 1 and in the role of a vice president. I have a little experience on a board. I have a condominium shore house out in Sea Isle. I've been on their board for 8 years now, but it's a much more relaxed kind of situation than a big community like I'm in now. So I appreciate this new board orientation.
Welcome, Lori. I don't think we've met.
Yeah, hi, Erin.
Hi, Erica. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear.
Can you see me?
Yes.
My name
Yes.
is Chris Meyer. I'm at Green Tree Run in Roxborough, northern Philadelphia. New to being a board member. This is my third condo though, so I've been involved in condos before, attended lots of meetings, never as a board member. This is my first time in that capacity.
Well, welcome. We hope you can get something out of this evening.
I hope so. Thank you.
Yep. Who else do we have? Sheila, Claire.
Yeah, hi, I'm Sheila, and I am with the board at Oak Terrace. And I've been a board member for 1 year now with Oak Terrace.
Welcome. I'm glad you could join us. Who else hasn't introduced themselves?
My name is Paxton. I'm the vice president of the condo association at Vistas at Green Hills. I know there's somebody else from Vistas here. I've been on for 3-4 months now.
Welcome.
My name is Claude Celestin. I'm at Village of Green Tree in Pennsylvania.
This is Ruben Rodriguez from Media, Pennsylvania, Alverno Farms HOA president. I've been on the board as treasurer for like a year and a half and president for like half a year, but I've never attended any of these trainings. So just saw one come across my email and I was free.
Wonderful. Hi, Ruben. Nice to see you.
Hey, Erica. How's it going?
Hello.
Hi,
Okay.
I'm Joanne Kelly. I'm from Tollgate Station in Lancaster. I don't know how to make you see me, but I am on the board and I saw this and I thought it would be interesting because we're going to have new members next year. So I'll be able to help them get started.
Mary Ellen, do you want to go next?
Sure. I'm from Pine Brook in Orensburg, and I've been on the board last year, and this is my second year, and I'm here because I want to find out what I should have been doing all last year. So.
Okay. Claude sent a message that he hopes to be heard, and we did, Claude. Hello. Okay. Now, did everybody introduce themselves? I think that's it. If anybody else new comes in, we'll let them say who they are.
One more.
Oh, Vitaly.
Yeah, Vitaly. I was waiting. I'm patient. I'm new to the board of Executive Suites Condo. I'm a resident for almost 9 years, and I'm replacing Bill, ex-president of the condo association here, and then just few months, so no role yet.
What's the name of your community?
Executive Suites.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, well,
Philadelphia, yes.
great. Nice to see you. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, and then I'm gonna let Erin kind of take over. I apologize. I am dealing with a little bit of a cold, and so she's a much better speaker this evening, but I'm gonna let Erin start going through the slides. And like we said, go ahead and interrupt us either during a slide or right at the end. We have about 2 sections we're gonna go over. So at the end of a section, if you've got something to contribute, lots of times it's very helpful. So don't be shy. If you have a thought or a recommendation, we'd like to hear that from you and questions.
Okay, with that, I will start. So some of the topics we're going to review is the role of the board, the role of the community manager, your governing documents, resolutions, meetings, communications, committees, budgeting, finances, and resources. So the role of the board, you have a fiduciary responsibility to help control. Don't mind me. It's been a long week, so you're all going to have to bear with me today. The role of the board member, you have a fiduciary responsibility to the community. You protect, your community, your property, your community's lifestyles. With supportive management, you enforce governing documents and laws and statutes. And we'll just move on from there because my brain's not working. So fiduciary responsibility, it protects the association from liability. The board is required usually through your governing, it is through your governing documents to purchase insurance for the community for your common elements. Your fiduciary responsibility is also to maintain the community, the common areas, whether in a homeowners association or a condo association. rule enforcement, which is also found in your governing documents. And then you have a fiscal responsibility, which we will touch on later regarding budgets and finances. So, qualities of a good, effective board member. My favorite thing is that you respond to emails. Sometimes, you know, it's really hard to be a volunteer board member, as many of you, I'm sure, already know. You have lives and you have jobs, and now you have this volunteer position, and, you know, life catches up to us. But most of us communicate nowadays through email. I know for me, I talk to my board presidents on the phone more than I talk to anyone else. It's just it's easier for me to talk to one person versus having to call all 3 to 5 members of the board. But effective board members, they have, you know, good business judgment, good character. They're willing to serve their community. They exercise discretion, which is extremely important. They can read and understand the governing documents. You know, it's not always easy to understand the governing documents. So if there's something you don't understand, you could always reach out to your community manager or even your attorney, because I'm sure many of you read your governing documents. Attorneys write them and they're not always easy to read. And then board members should be available for meetings, any responsive to any critical issues. And again, emails, it's super important. Ineffective board members. So I would say self-serving is probably the most ineffective way to be a board member. While we understand that board members are homeowners as well, and board members, you know, need things done as well. When you join a board, you are supposed to be doing what's good for the whole of the community, not just yourself. Be a team player, work well with others, have good business judgment, you know, use good decision making. And
Aaron, not to interrupt, but to
No,
go
sorry.
back to the prior slide, transparency is just such a big, important thing. So transparency is critical, and then lack of transparency is the opposite. And that's where we run
Yes.
into ineffective people, ineffective teams. So transparency is just, that goes with communication, guys, and sharing. We can talk about your methods of communication because that kind of comes up later. But we'd like to hear from people about how you share information with your community to maintain that sense of transparency where they feel like they are informed. That you'll find that that's a really big thing. A lot of times what happens in a community when people become unhappy, or you might get like small pockets of residents who are really outspoken about something, it's because they are not fully informed. They don't really understand what's going on behind the scenes and what the board and management are working on. So transparency is just huge and goes a long way. Sharing information with people, it eliminates skepticism sometimes and frustration, and it'll just help you.
Absolutely. So I'm going to move on from ineffective board members. So the board member code of conduct. Some attorneys do, or some associations do have code of conduct for their boards. Code of conducts just make sure that you agree to being confidential with personal information of other homeowners, delinquencies, anti-defamation measures, business, again, good business judgment. If there's a conflict of interest with you holding role of a board member, honesty, and then care and respect for your fellow board members and your community. So the role of the community manager. So as a community manager, I make absolutely no decisions. I take all of my direction from my boards. I handle all the communications typically with my community. We'll go into that with the transparency as well. I do help facilitate projects, so I can get engineers involved. I can't write up an RFP, but I can maneuver somewhat of one, so that we're comparing apples to apples and not apples to oranges sometimes. We handle the day-to-day because this is our full-time job, and a lot of, like I said earlier, a lot of board members, you know, they have their own full-time jobs and their own lives. I work with all the residents. I have about 915 residents of my own. I don't talk to that many, but I do. I handle all the resident issues. We're like the buffers between the board and the residents. And I know for me, I think it's really difficult to be a volunteer board member, and you guys, it's a very thankless job sometimes. You guys get a lot of slack, but I'm always there to advocate for my board, because I think the boards, you have to make hard decisions that you also have to live with. So, Erica, is there anything else you think I need to touch on?
No, well, one thing that that comes to mind is I would encourage you to have an open conversation with the other board members and your manager about the board members' participation in the day-to-day versus the manager, because as Mary Ellen said, or as Aaron said, there's a lot of, the manager is responsible for the day-to-day, the communication with the vendors, the communication with the owners. We have board members that want to have higher and lower levels of participation. I would just say, make sure you have an ongoing conversation about what's expected, so you're not stepping on each other's toes, and so that you're on the same page.
Absolutely. So there's a lot of support for management through CAMCO. I mean, we have a ton of support, and I know that CAMCO supports all of its board members. We do a lot of board roundtables, trainings. So as a manager, we get a lot of internal trainings. We have an education fund that we use to continuously educate ourselves. So I'm in New Jersey, and New Jersey has a lot of laws that we have to know, and they're constantly updating those laws. So I constantly have to take classes to, keep up to date with everything that's going on. Then you also have external support. You have your attorneys and your CPAs for your audits, and the townships, and we have landscapers and your irrigation vendors and insurance agents, which is huge, and they are a huge part of this. CAMCO also has accounts receivable, which helps. I use my accounts receivable for a lot of my homeowners' account issues. Accounting is definitely not my strong suit, so I'm good on the management end, but we rely heavily on our accounts receivable department for accounting things, especially related to homeowners. And then we also have an accounts payable department where all the invoices go through, and we will touch on more of that later. And then we'll get into governing documents. Does anyone have any questions thus far? Okay. So your governing documents.
I do.
Sorry. Oh, sure.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. It was actually something that Erica had said about transparency, and I wonder what you would do in this situation. So there was a decision made by the board to increase the deductible on the insurance so that we could stay within budget, rather than do a special assessment. So a letter was sent out by CAMCO. I mean, an email was sent out by CAMCO with the letter from the insurance company. And I personally asked a lot of my neighbors, if they were aware of this, that there had been an increase within the deductible, and not a single person had was aware of that, or aware of the letter. Like, it's just, they got an email and nobody really read it. So I brought this up, and I thought we should be communicating this information better somehow. And I was and nobody agreed with me. So how do you feel about that?
So I'll speak a little bit on that. So as a manager, again, we take our directives from the board. So sometimes boards don't have a large administrative budget. And we all know that the increased cost of mailings, and I don't know how large your community is, but the increased cost of mailings can hurt the budget a little bit. So if the board makes a decision to just email it, that's fine, as long as the majority of the board has agreed upon that. And then the board can also decide you can email it and mail it as well. We do have mailing capability. Personally, for something like that, I would usually recommend that my board mail it, so that everybody makes sure that they get it. But then you also should be talking about it at meetings. It should be in your meeting minutes. It should be on the owner portal. Your manager can upload all of that information onto the owner portal. And then to kind of like just keep driving it home, it's just something I would constantly talk about at open meetings, like constantly informing your community about what is going on. And that's where the transparency therein lies. Because sometimes budgets don't allow for multiple mailings a year. And considering that you have your budgets, depending on how your budget runs, whether fiscal or calendar year, you typically have to mail out all of your budgets too. So
But what if it wasn't by post office, but by via another email, like an email from the board of directors, just to say, we would like to inform you that this decision was made, and then we're recommending that you have your private insurance.
So management, the manager has the ability to send out a mass email to the entire community. We have all of that information and availability at our fingertips through our software. So that's the manager's kind of role anyway. I would never personally ask any of my board presidents to send out an email to the community. We try, because you're volunteer members also, I also try to keep my board members from being hounded by homeowners, right? Because I am the go-between between, like, if they have a question from the board, I will typically go to the board and ask that question and then respond to the homeowner, because you're a volunteer and you don't want to be hounded every time you walk out your door. So I would just say, ask the board if, you can just talk about it at your meetings, and ask the community manager to send out yet another mass email as a reminder, and then go from there.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I would send it again. And Claire, I'm not sure who your agent is, but a lot of the agents that I work with will write a homeowner's letter every year with the renewal, and that outlines what changed from year to year or what's the same. And so when we send that letter out, we say, and I usually do just email it, and usually only once, but if you want to send it multiple times, I think that's very reasonable. And I say, please share this letter with your agent to make sure you have a sufficient insurance. So we encourage the owners to share that with their agent, that letter.
Right.
I have a question that's similar about communication preferences. Because some folks like email, some folks like mail. Is there a way for CAMCO to track the communication preference of the homeowner and just do what they want?
Yes, but again, it would be a board decision. So
okay.
Typically, for instance, I have a community where I think I have like 18 people who don't have any email. For super important information that has to go out, I automatically mail it to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So our software, Ruben, does split it. So everyone does have a preference already. It defaults to mail, defaults to USPS, I believe. But when you go into your contact in the portal, you can change it to email. And when we send it as an action item, it can go according to your preference.
Okay, perfect. That answers my question. Thank you.
You're welcome. Does anyone else have any questions? Okay, we'll move along to governing documents. Since I'm in New Jersey, I'm not familiar with Pennsylvania's governing documents, so I'll let Erica talk about that. But your governing documents provide the structure for your community. So they give the homeowners guidelines on their responsibility versus the association's responsibility, the homeowners, not rules and regulations, but restrictions are typically in your governing documents. How meetings are held, that's in your bylaws, and I'll get a little further into that as I keep going through the slides. So a declaration, or I think it's a CC&R in Pennsylvania, Erica?
I think between both states, master deeds, CC&Rs, yeah.
So that establishes the association's responsibility. It defines the owner rights and obligations, or members, or all of that. Common areas, limited common element. It defines all of that. Declarations cannot be changed without an amendment, and it usually has to be a majority vote of the community. it's like some are like 2/3, some are 67, 64% or 67%. It all depends. And it is definitely in your governing documents, in your declaration or your bylaws, I forget. But it'll tell you how many you need to make an amendment change to your declaration. Telling you, my brain's not working today.
Yeah, in the declaration, it'll say what kind of vote is required for to amend your declaration. Same with the bylaws. Could be a different number.
Terrible. And then you get into your bylaws. Your bylaws have all of your the appointments for officers, the terms, your annual meeting information. Sometimes it gives the date or the month that you have to have it in, your meeting requirements. And it only requires, I'm sorry, it only requires a 10% vote to do an amendment for bylaws here in New Jersey. So you only need 10%. If less than 10% of the members, if less than 10% of the members decline, then your bylaw amendment goes through. If over 10% of your community declines, or my brain is not working, declines the ballot, then it doesn't go through. Erica, I don't know what it is in Pennsylvania, if you want to just talk on that a little bit.
It's generally 67%, like you said, for the declaration. And the bylaws could be around 50%.
Okay. Your articles of incorporation, they define the purpose of the association. This is typically when your association is developed, when the developer incorporates the entire situation. Oh my God, my brain. When the developer incorporates your association, I cannot today. And then you have my favorite subject, the hierarchy of documents. So first and foremost is that federal and state laws trump all of your governing documents. I don't want to talk a lot about Jersey because I know a lot of you are not in New Jersey, but here in New Jersey, we have some laws that there are a lot. So although your bylaws in New Jersey, you have meeting requirements, we have something called the Radburn regulations, and they trump the bylaws. So we have to follow, if the association's bylaws are different than the Radburn regulations, then the Radburn regulations in New Jersey come first. So any federal, state laws, statutes, they come before anything. Your recorded map, your plat or your plan is next. And then your declaration, your CC&R master deed, your proprietary lease or occupancy agreement, articles of incorporation, bylaws, and then board resolutions. Rules and regulations.
I'm sorry, a question about the conflicts between the laws. Does CAMCO or the attorneys that are assigned able to do like an assessment to let us know if there are provisions in our declarations and bylaws that are in conflict with the local laws?
Yes. So your association's attorney has all of your governing documents. And if something changes in your state that will trump or change your declaration or your bylaws, then your attorney should be letting you know immediately.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that said, Ruben, they won't necessarily do an examination unless you ask them to. So yes, they have them, they should be aware, but they don't always. So I would ask them if you specifically want them to review for conflicts. And it might be that you could there are times when the board can do like a corrective amendment when there's like an obvious mistake in your documents. You can change these without a big vote of the community, and you need an attorney recommendation letter for that. So, have your attorney look at your documents and see if there are conflicts, first of all, and see if, they have recommendations. Sometimes it makes sense to kind of review your documents in whole and incorporate any changes at one time. So, they might have corrective amendments that the board could pass easily. They might have more important amendments to bring you up to like current statutes to incorporate, for example, like House Bill 1795 in Pennsylvania. More recent things like that to bring your documents current. So you've got, for electronic voting and everything actually in your documents. So that way you can amend your document as a whole when it's time.
Okay. Yeah, our documents are are almost 50 years old. Basically, in the document, it says when you get to 50 years, you have to vote to keep the HOA going. So that's kind of our predicament right now, but they've never been edited in 50 years. So our lawyers basically told us like these things are way outdated. They're not relevant at all. So we need to kind of do like a complete rewrite, basically.
Yeah, and you want to do that sooner than later. I've got some of that going on right now in some communities. And what the boards do and what we do is we talk about it at a lot of the open meetings because it's like a grassroots effort to get everybody prepared to vote because you're going to need about 67% of the owners to vote in favor of this. That's a big number. It's a hard
Yep.
to achieve. So I'd be talking about that early and often too.
Yeah, we're 2 years out and we increased our legal budget this year to kind of try to address that and at least
Yeah.
get, you know, the paperwork formed so that we can begin those communications.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
So your rules and regulations are adopted by the board. They cannot conflict with your master deed or bylaws. They should be fair and reasonable. They can be changed with a vote of the board. For instance, some of my communities have the type of storm door that you're allowed to have, and they also dictate what color hardware you can have, whether it be brushed nickel or black or white. Full glass door, or I forget the other ones that they have. Can't remember. And then rule enforcement will be in there. These can be changed as long as it's a vote with the board, and then you inform the community. And again, they should also be spoken about at your open board meetings. So resolutions are policy changes adopted by the board. They, again, cannot conflict with your other governing documents, your bylaws, your declaration, CC&R. They have to be reviewed by an attorney, and they have to be signed by board members. And rules and regulation or resolutions. Hold on. I have to read this one because I just totally blanked. Resolution to rules and regulations. Board members may revise the association's rules and regulations subject to attorney review. Rule resolutions are ultimately incorporated into a revised set of rules and regulations shared by the homeowners. I'm sorry that I had to read that, but I drew a blank. And then
I had a question about sharing.
Sure.
Is it okay to share by email and says, here's where you find them on the internal portal? Or do we have to actually print and mail them out?
So again, when it comes to something like rules and regulations, I
Mhm.
email, in my email, I always say, you can find this on the
Okay.
owner portal. If the board doesn't want to mail them, I just send them reminder emails for a few weeks and then let it go. And
Perfect.
again, we talk about it at open meetings.
Mhm.
And Erica, correct me if I'm wrong, but I also think that some of your governing documents may dictate how you have to send these things.
Yeah.
So I know for resolutions, for me, amendments, they all get mailed out, emailed out. I mean, we just inundate people.
Mhm.
Rules and regulations, my boards typically will mail out just so everybody has a copy of them if they're changed, and they don't really change them that often. But again, I think it would depend on the board and your governing documents.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So what kind of things can be passed by a resolution rather than an amendment? Because the amendment requires the vote of the community and the board resolutions can just be passed by the board, correct?
Yes, so like a parking resolution, capital contribution is an amendment to your bylaws. Parking resolutions,
What would be an example? Like, because it's like, I guess that's the thing. It's like a rule can be it's subjective, right? And a policy could be a rule. So I don't know which is which.
Yeah.
Because we're trying to pass some things. We usually don't get really good participation, so we can't pass amendments basically. But we're trying to change stuff. And so really the resolutions are the only things that we have right now until we get better participation. But we don't know what we can actually enact through resolutions.
So your rules
So-
and regulations would be things like no bird feeders, no wind chimes, a specific type of door, a color of the door. Your resolutions would be, again, parking resolutions. Erica, my brain is stopping. I
Well-
can't think
what I
of
was
other
gonna
resolutions
say-
I have.
No, I would also say like to think about it this way, a resolution is almost just a way to formalize a board's decision.
Mm.
And you can have different kinds of resolutions. It could be that you just want to change the door colors that are acceptable, like Aaron was saying. So you can still do a resolution, and that just is a change to the rules and regs if it's something that's already in your rules and regs. The board could also make a bigger decision about something in the bylaws. It still needs to go out to a vote though, so the board can at their meeting, pass a resolution that they want to make ABC changes to the bylaws, and then the next step will be to have a vote of the community. So there's various types. The resolutions have multiple purposes, but really it's to just formalize the board's decision. And then from there, the actions could vary. So the rules are the easiest to change. Board members can change a rule at a board meeting and it passes. So no need for a vote. That's why the rules are at the bottom of your hierarchy. They're the simplest things to change. So they're like not written in stone. Your declaration, your bylaws, the other documents are a lot more written in stone, a lot more concrete, harder to change.
Okay, so rules and regulations can be changed by board members.
Yeah, and so you do want to make sure if you're passing a rule, though, it doesn't conflict with something in your declaration. So you
Yeah.
can't decide, to limit the number of renters, for example, as a rule. That could conflict
Yeah.
with your declaration. So, certain things you definitely want to defer to your attorney on these and make
Okay.
sure that you're passing something appropriate.
Okay, that's good. I like that explanation too about formalizing the policy, because I know a recent thing that came up were the board's decisions on which trees to remove, which was a very heated conversation. And so I'd like to have a resolution or something that says like, this is the board's thought process regarding removing trees, right? Dead ones go first. If you have a live one and you're willing to split the cost with the board and it's encroaching in your house, we'll take it out. Those type of things. That can be a resolution just to formalize how we think.
That's great. Yep.
Okay, perfect.
Mhm.
Excellent. Thank you.
And if you wanted to change the annual meeting, would that be a resolution? Can that be in rules and regulation? Does it have to be an amendment?
Probably an amendment if it's already in your bylaws.
It is.
Yeah, you'd have to do an amendment.
Okay, thank you.
And this is why I call Erica 5 times a day some days. So we're going to move on to meetings. So meeting minutes. Oh, I love this conversation. Meeting minutes are extremely important. Meeting minutes should be taken at every meeting. It is typically in the manager's contract that the manager does not take meeting minutes. There could be a conflict of interest there. The board secretary is typically the one to take the meeting minutes. Your meeting minutes should always include any motions made from the board. If you're approving like a vendor proposal, that should all be in your meeting minutes, and it should be done in an open meeting. It also shows transparency. Meeting minutes should be posted in the owner portal for homeowners to be able to access, because sometimes homeowners can't make open meetings, whether it's Zoom or in person. And then every year when you do your audit, or however you do your audits, the CPAs always request the prior year's meeting minutes. And when they don't have them, that becomes a problem. So meetings, there's an executive session. It's just an executive session of the board. Some of my boards call them bot meetings, working bot meetings for board of trustees. So they're attended by the board and management. You can set policy there, although you should be talking about it in the open meeting. You do discuss financials and delinquencies. So the biggest thing is that you cannot discuss delinquencies or personal information about other homeowners in an open meeting. So it's good to have your executive session meeting, because you can discuss how you're going to move forward with any delinquencies regarding legal. Any legal matters are discussed during your board executive session. And you can vote on actions in your executive sessions, but you have to vote on them in an open meeting as well. But this way it kind of gives you like a heads up before you walk into a community meeting of, homeowners who are going to have a ton of questions. The board gets to sit down and discuss. Majority board vote is all you need to move forward. And then when you go in front of the community, you're well prepared. And just side note, but board members don't have to all agree with each other. You need a majority board. If you have 5 members, 3 at least have to approve for something to move forward. But you should all, even if you disagree, you should not go in front of your community and be, well, I don't agree, and I wanted this, and I do agree. You should come together in front of your community as what's the word I'm looking for, Erica? A united front.
Yeah, united front.
Yep. We don't all agree. A lot of us, we all have different minds and thought processes. But you should absolutely be in front of your community as a united front.
And I just wanted to say, Aaron, real quick, in New Jersey, what you're saying applies as far as having, making any actual vote in front of the community. In PA, they don't have to. So it doesn't have to be in an open meeting. If they're approving a contract or something, it does have to be recorded in the minutes, but it doesn't have to be at the open meeting.
Well, you guys should be lucky you don't have me as your manager because I don't know anything about PA. Thank you, Erica. I did not know that. Community meeting. So your open community meeting it's all hopefully your residents come. Your annual meeting is to hold elections, and that is in your bylaws typically in your bylaws of when you should be holding your annual meetings. When you have a community meeting, your manager should be putting an agenda together for you, or the board should be putting an agenda together of items that you're going to discuss. We typically follow Robert's Rules of Order. And I personally like to go through the agenda before I open up the meeting, because sometimes I feel like when you open up the meeting at any point, it just creates chaos and then people get off track. So I feel like you should always be working through your agenda. And then after you adjourn the business portion, you should be opening it up to the community for questions and answers. I'm trying to think. So in order to keep them orderly and productive, you should definitely be following an agenda. Eric, is there anything you want to add on meetings?
No, not necessarily. I would say one thing, there are different tones that usually a board president will set. Sometimes the board president likes to run the meeting generally. Sometimes the board prefers for the manager to run the meeting. So I think that's something that you establish as you go, work through your relationship with the management company. And that's always based on preference more than anything. But I would just say neither one is right. But I've seen everything where the manager barely speaks at the meeting, because the president runs it for, in the opposite. So.
And out of all of my communities, it's about half and half. Half of my presidents run the entire meeting. Sometimes I do a manager's report, and then the other half I do the entire meeting. And if you can't tell by this, that's not my favorite, because I get flustered and I get stuck. So I'm going to move on to communications.
Can I ask a question on meetings?
Sure.
Erica, if you can let us know, in Pennsylvania, is there a requirement that there be a certain number of open meetings?
It's just usually spelled out in your documents.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Sure thing. It's usually at least one, which is your annual meeting for the election.
Right.
As far as open meetings. But yeah, look in your bylaws.
Okay, so communication, this was where we'll jump into transparency. So you want to keep your community informed of any board decisions, any happenings in the community that the board needs to be, or that the community needs to be made aware of. I believe that when you are completely transparent with your residents, you have less residents who want to start a fight, right? Because sometimes people get mad and upset when they don't understand something that's going on in the community, or they're not informed the way they feel that they should be informed. Again, I am an over communicator. I try to tell everybody everything as soon as I can. Sometimes I don't, just for board discretion, so that the board's not hounded if they walk out their door. But again, you want to be completely transparent. I send out a ton of emails. I make robocalls. Oh, that's another thing you can do in your community too, is you can do robocalls. There are typically companies, there's software out there. It is an additional cost. Some of them are cheap. But your manager can send out a call to the entire community. I have that in my 55 and over communities, and I find it to be really helpful. But with communications, you will share the results of an amendment, whether it passed or not. That goes into distributing policy change. You can send announcements and updates. I am not a weatherman, but I do like to tell people before a snowstorm, hey, we're getting snow, this is what it's expected to be. Our vendors will be out immediately following the storm or whatever. Sometimes I don't, because the majority of us do know the weather that we're getting. It just depends for me and my boards, it's typically just depends on the severity of the storm. But any announcements, updates, any
Stan
community.
AI.
Oh, Stan AI. Oh, that's another thing. CAMCO has Stan AI, which is a texting capability, and it will send out text blast. I think it doesn't do calls. It's a text blast, and it can also send email blast. And community members can also text Stan AI back and ask questions about the community, which is great because Stan AI, which we call CAMI, can answer questions about governing documents or trash days if that information is in there. It's really, really helpful. I do love living in a digital age.
Yeah, and most of you have Stan AI in some form or fashion
Mm-hmm.
in your contracts with us.
Committees. So there are different types of committees. There's standing and ad hoc. Standing committees, they remain in force indefinitely. They can be in your governing documents, not always. And then there's ad hoc committees where you put the committee together for a specific reason. ADR is usually one of them, and that is an alternate dispute resolution. No, it's not happening today for me. Yep. I hope you know what I mean because I can't get it out. So you would put that together for somebody who requests ADR, whether they're trying to, they're not happy about their violation or whatever the decision made by the board. And the role of the committee members is to serve at the pleasure of the boards. The boards essentially have the final say. We do recommend that boards try to listen to their committee members because you have somebody who's volunteering to let's say be on a landscape committee and they're giving you advice. And if you're constantly telling your committee members, no, we're not going to go with that, then they're not going to want to volunteer for that position because then they're going to feel like they're not heard. So board members should definitely be listening to their committee members. They usually have separate charters explaining what the committee is, what their role is, and they should always also record minutes. Erica, do you want to add anything?
No, I think you make a good point about the charters. It's good for the committee and the board to know exactly what the committee's responsibilities and capabilities are, their limitations. Ad hoc, to be given any examples, yeah, holiday party committee or clubhouse redecorating committee. You might have an ad hoc committee formed for a specific purpose and then it's dissolved after that. And I would recommend against having kind of lightly or loosely defined committees. Sometimes we do come across committees that it might be the design committee, but there's no charter for them. And so they kind of get involved in whether it's landscape design, front door design. So they kind of expand their purview, I guess. So I would just keep your definitions tight because otherwise you can get committees that don't know what they're supposed to be doing.
And I will say another thing too. So Lori Alfieri, who's on this, Lori's on one of my boards, and she is the liaison for the landscape committee. One of the other things I will say about committees is you do have to be very specific because especially in terms of like your landscape vendors, you want to make sure that you maintain a really good relationship. So the board can allow like a landscape committee to, or a person on the landscape committee to be like a contact for the landscaper if they want to ask for certain things or discuss things, that's fine. But you want to tread very lightly with that because not everybody deals well, right? No, not everybody can keep a good rapport with your vendors. So you just want to be very careful with that. That's something that makes me really very nervous. Not with Lori, by the way. I did not mean that at all. Lori's aces, love her. She's the best.
Quick question about the committees and the language. Do you have any like boilerplate language for some common committees that structure them properly or put the right like boundaries on there?
Erica, I'll let
For
you.
sure. I can send you something, Ruben. I'll send you a sample, one or two that I can find. Committee charter.
Yeah, I would look for something that like, you know, boilerplate language for a landscape committee, and then maybe like a grounds committee, or unless they're like the same.
Okay, I'll see what I can
Ruben,
find.
the other thing too is so CAMCO, we have so many help from other managers in the community. So a lot of times too, if I need a charter or something for a committee, I'll go out to the other managers and say, hey, do you have something that you could send me that I could work off of? And then I present that to my boards and say, we can change this or that. But it also helps because different associations have different types of charters and other community managers can send your manager charters and you get a better idea of what's happening.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. Finances. Yay. I'm going to read this because I usually make Erica do this part, but because she's not feeling that great, I'm not supposed to be doing this, but I'm going to do it. The board members have a fiduciary duty regarding the finances of the association. You are to act within your authority, exercise due care, act in good faith, avoid conflicts of interest, and budget responsibility. So a budget. It's our favorite part of the year. A budget is a formal plan that spends your finances throughout the year. We usually, during your budget, we go off of historical data, which is any invoices you've received over the past year or two. And then we try to project. So like we do the last 6 months and then try to project the next 6 months when doing the budget, because we start in July if you're a calendar year. You know, with over the past few years with the rate of inflation, we've had to incorporate the rate of inflation for a lot of items. So a lot of maintenance costs went up because the cost of products went up. Contractors, managers will typically reach out. So I personally reach out to my contractors to see if there's going to be an increase in fees going forward for the next year. My insurance agents, I rely heavily on them to tell me what they think the forecast is for the insurance industry. So I'll reach out to them to see where they kind of fall for the next year. Your taxes, I rely heavily on the accountants for that. If you're investing, I know that you end up having to pay taxes, especially when a lot of people have been gaining over the past few years. So we kind of go off of, you know, what the association's been making and gaining and interest and all of that. So your operating budget is the total income from the homeowners association fees, condo fees, and that pays your vendors, your water bills, your insurance, your management fee, any regular expenses, like your day-to-day expenses. And then a portion of the operating budget funds the reserves each month as well, because that's also in your budget for your capital reserves. And that's your not your capital reserves, your budget, your full budget is made from your association fees. And your capital budget is a projection of the cost that you're going to be spending on roofing, siding, roadways, Any common area, major project would be a capital project. You will also need a capital reserve study. Again, I'm sorry to do this to you, is because I'm here in New Jersey and I'm so inundated with New Jersey law. So I'm sure a lot of you are totally familiar with the Champlain Towers that fell in Florida. Here in New Jersey last year, New Jersey put out a law. It's Senate bill. I'm sorry, Senate Bill SB 270 or 260, I forget. But it requires associations to adequately fund their capital reserves, and then they also have to do a capital reserve study every 3 to 5 years. With the rate of inflation, I'm a big fan of 3 years, but you should be working that into your budget anyway. And that can come out of capital. But you should be working that into your budget to have your capital reserve study done every 3 to 5 years. I don't think Pennsylvania has any laws pertaining to capital reserves. Erica just said no, so she confirmed that. But I know that since Champlain Towers fell, there's been a lot of oversight into, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. They're getting really hard, and the one thing you don't want to do is kick the can down the road in terms of your capital budget and say, well, we're not going to be here in 10 years. We're not going to worry about it, because that's not really fair to the next people that have to take it over. And then, you get into craziness. And then your capital reserve study typically goes out about 20 to 30 years. And then financial reporting. So you'll receive a monthly financial report from CAMCO. This is done by your specific accountant for your community. You should understand how to read your financial reports. I know that I've had communities that don't understand it, so I've asked accountants to have meetings with my boards to go over how to read your financial reports, and sometimes I find that just to be super helpful. It's just very helpful, and CAMCO accountants are more than willing to meet with boards to explain financial reporting and how you should read it. So your first page of your financials is your financial summary. I'm sorry.
Excuse me, how do you share the monthly financial reports to the community? Because there was an incident when I was first on the board that there was an issue that they thought we were not transparent enough with the monthly statements, and yet we publish them each month.
Well, that's all you can do. I think
that is all you can
publish
do.
them, make them available. The one thing you want to take out, probably because our packet has a lot of information, you want to take out the accounts receivable reports, probably the check ledgers too, depending.
Delinquencies.
Well, yeah, the
Yes,
delinquencies,
yes.
yeah. But I would share always this summary. This summary is prepared by your accountant. It's a great snapshot of where you stand. Then the income and expense and the balance sheet. I would share at least those reports, make those available all the time. The owners are privy to. They have a right to view this anyway. But
I do that with my communities. I share community financials, and it, like Erica said, it's like 4 pages. If they don't understand it and they have questions, I'm happy to try and answer them to the best of my non-accounting ability. But that's all you can do. I mean, if they have them at their fingertips, there's no reason for them to discount anything you're saying. They are not allowed to know about like delinquencies, or they don't need to see your bank statements. Everything's on these 4 pieces of paper.
I would say though, it might help, Thomas, if you're not doing it, when you have your open meetings, to have a treasurer.
Treasury report.
Yeah.
I've also done things too where I had board members who, no matter how many times I explain explain the financials to them, they couldn't read it. So sometimes I would highlight exactly. I mean, I've even gone out and written word for word what the treasurer should say to go over the financials to the community. But it definitely helps to put your finances out there to the community in a treasury report before you open up the meeting to old business. Does anyone else have any questions? Okay. So, oh, I messed up. Sorry. Let me go back. So this is your financial summary report. This is the first page of your financials. It tells you your total cash position, which you'll see highlighted for 268,570. Your surplus or deficit at the top, sorry. Moving down your operating reserve status, your total capital reserves, it will tell you your CDs will be under cash position, and it will always have like the percentage that your CDs are at, anything like that. This is your balance sheet, gives you the balance of your money market, your lockbox checking, where you are with your prepaid expenses, your liabilities, equity. And then this is your review of income and expenses. So I don't know if can you see my cursor? Yeah, okay. So,
Yes.
so here you'll see like in this actual year to date, this is what you've spent so far in the year. This is your annual budget, or this is your budget. This is what you've spent so far in the year. And then this would be your variance or your surplus that you have in that account. And then this would be your delinquency report. It'll tell you how many people are 30, 60, or 90 days over, whether they've been sent a small balance notice, a late notice. CAMCO does 30, 60, 90 days, and then it typically gets sent over to the attorney as long as the board is okay with that. It will also tell you if your delinquencies are with the attorney or not.
Aaron, just a quick note about the first page where we look at the variances. That's just something that you might want to tune into each month, and you can
Which
look
one?
and see, is there a variance in the budget? It kind of makes you explore why, is the water bill really high? Do we have water running somewhere, or are we on budget? It just helps you kind of tune in and find out why we're not on track, or if we are on track each month. It's important to watch the trends.
Mm-hmm. I can't tell you how many times I must look at an income and expense statement a day just to make sure I am where I'm supposed to be. So your finances and reserves. So your primary duty as the board is to protect your property values. This goes into planning ahead with your capital reserve study and making sure that you have adequate funds in your reserves to do big projects. One of the other things is that you also don't want to do a lot of special assessments. You do have the ability to do special assessments if something comes up that you absolutely have to fix and you don't have the funds for. Sometimes you can special assess for other major projects, but a lot of special assessments does not go over well, especially when somebody's trying to sell their community or sell their unit. It really doesn't put people in a good financial spot, right? To have to owe all this money all of a sudden when they're already paying a mortgage and HOA or COA fees. So your reserves are really important. I would say that adequate reserve funds is funding at 100% of your capital reserve study. And in your capital reserve study, there's usually like 3 different types of funding. I will tell you what they are, but I can't remember right now. One of them is baseline funding. I just
5% and 10% threshold.
Yeah, there you go.
Funding.
This is why I need Erica. I just went to a symposium and talked about this. So your reserve study basics. So who needs them? Every homeowners association, condo association needs to perform a reserve study. It is a budget planning tool that uncovers the current status of the HOA's reserve funds, as well as the needs of work you need to get done. When you do get one, it should be conducted regularly. 3 to 5 years is what we always say. And it should be done by a engineering firm. Managers cannot do these. So physical property, again, it would be your common elements, roofing, siding. If you're a condo association, I'm so sorry, I don't really know how planned unit developments and co-ops work, But common elements are all in there. Roadways, if they're not dedicated to the township that you're in, and I don't know if that works in Pennsylvania as well. And then if you need an updated study, you can ask your manager to go out and get you proposals from engineering firms. We work with a lot of really great engineering firms, FWH, KIPCon, Building Reserves is another one. And they can get you proposals on your capital reserve study. And you should probably also look into like a preventative maintenance as well. Some of like here in New Jersey, we have to have preventative maintenance in our capital reserve studies now with this new Senate bill that they put into law last year. But a preventative maintenance study it's not as intense as your full capital reserve study, but it does help you kind of figure out what you're going to be spending for all of your preventative maintenance. Erica, I'm sorry, but I'm turning this one over to you. I feel like I've talked enough and they've heard my voice long enough.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so no, just quite simply, like you said, on your balance sheet, it's going to talk about the funds that the association maintains. Your checking account is what we use for operating, usually an NCB operating or a checking account. That's where your funds are deposited. Everyone's monthly fees go into a lockbox, and we use that for operating. We also have usually an NCB money market. You want to stay within FDIC guidelines, and you want to stay only with FDIC insured accounts. So that's a maximum of 250,000 per institution. And you can work with the CAMCO's banking coordinator. If you have excess funds, buy CDs, take out CDs. And these are all going to be listed on your summary and also on your balance sheet every month. If you have a number of CDs, it's going to say the interest rate and when it matures. So we just usually recommend that the board is paying attention to your funds, make sure nothing is in excess of $250,000 because it might not be insured. But the last year or so, a little more than a year now, we've at least seen associations finally earning a little bit more interest than they had been over the last few years. So that's been very nice for everybody, for the associations. Does anyone have any questions? Okay.
And we have a banking coordinator. His name is Lou. He's with CAMCO, and he can, if you're interested in in having Lou explain some of the current rates and money market accounts. Like I know Lou likes to use this ADM money market account. I think it has a more interest than NCB. But your manager can absolutely put the board in touch with Lou to discuss investments.
Yep. So if you haven't, I would definitely, if you have a lot of cash sitting around or something in a money market that's not earning anything, you definitely should ask your manager to put you in touch with Lou.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even if you have like a project that you know is coming up in 6 or 12 months, you could put that money into a 6 or 12-month CD to earn interest to make a little money on it. So resources, so there's the CAI, which is the Community Associations Institute. It's an organization for community leaders. All of us managers are members of CAI. It's required by CAMCO. As you can see underneath my name, we are credentialed. I am a certified manager of community associations and also an association management specialist. We do continuing education through CAI. There is an expo in Lancaster that I'm going to, and I cannot wait, where we meet a bunch of vendors. I think I just said that I went to 2 symposiums recently, a manager symposium and a New Jersey symposium. We're constantly educating ourselves in CAMCO as managers. And then as the board, you can also join CAI. And CAI also has this thing called a Gold Star community that your manager can apply for. If you're interested, ask your community manager. And then with CAI, I think you get like 1 year free membership, but there's a lot of information with CAI. And CAI, my one board president, he's constantly sending us things that he finds, like conversations between other board members throughout throughout the country. And it's a lot of really good information. And then the website is down here. It's caionline.org if you're interested.
And locally, there's the Keystone chapter that most of us are members of.
Mm-hmm. And then as board members, I mean, every homeowner has access to the owner portal on CAMCO. Your manager should be updating your documents constantly. You should have all of your governing documents in there, your insurance information, any forms that homeowners need to fill out, ARC requests, anything. And then the board members have special access. So board members have access to the full financials on there, contracts, trying to think what else. Like your working board minutes I also put out for the community.
We
But
put
you
board
guys,
updates usually, the weekly updates.
yeah, your board updates, I always forget to do that. Your board updates are on there. You can also pull up reports. So you can pull up violation reports, you can pull up work order reports, you can see the invoices that are coming in and getting paid. You can look through all of that as the board member. You also have to use your own personal email, and I will lightly touch on this. But we've heard from many attorneys. So email is discoverable. So I would suggest to board members to have a specific board email for board items only. However that may look, there's free Gmail accounts, Yahoo, and then sign up for the board portal under that email. You can still have your regular login for your homeowner's account. But for the board, I would suggest, and we've been told this by many attorneys, to have just an email for your board items. Eric, is there anything you want to add?
No, I was just gonna say, does anybody have any questions about anything? Or comments?
I have, it's Kathy Weedman. I have a couple of questions. I've actually been on the HOA board for over 5 years, but I do find these really helpful. This one actually, I think it was actually labeled new board members, but I find that every time I go, I find something new out. So I would encourage everybody to continue to attend because I just picked up a couple of things that I missed and earlier ones. So that's my first comment. The second comment as well is, we switched from another management company who shall remain nameless. But, we've been really thrilled with CAMCO and their portal particularly is really useful. It takes a little bit of getting used to with the reporting, but there's ways to filter reporting and history and everything. It's really good. It's a great portal. And, I have it open pretty much most of the day, actually. And it helps to have a great manager as well, community manager, which I can't say enough about. But anyway, so my question though is about the reserves. So we recently run into sort of an issue. We did have our reserve study done by KIPCon. And there's two funding alternatives, if you will. One is the full funding recommendations, and then there's the full threshold. And typically, doing a little bit of research, it seems that full funding is what most HOAs fund to, and versus the full threshold, which means it's kind of more the less conservative, more aggressive in terms of fully funded scenario. But then it seems like CAI judges on the full funding, the full threshold versus the full funding. And I'm confused about that. I've done a little bit of research and it says that, most, I would say to determine an A-level type of community, you should be based on full funding, not full threshold. But I wonder if you could comment or if you have any insight on that.
I personally don't. You mean for when they're looking at the gold star?
Exactly, yeah.
I guess because, in my opinion, it's the same with New Jersey, where Aaron was saying that, associations are now required to fund according to their reserve study. But they can opt for the threshold, which is low, like you said, but they can do that and still be in compliance. So I'm assuming PA is the same way because there's no actual requirement for it. But I don't know for a fact.
No, that,
Why.
yeah, it is true that Pennsylvania does not have any requirements, but they, I mean, they just make recommendations, but
Yeah.
you know, the weird thing is with our KIPCON study, we actually had um, our full funding balance was actually less than the threshold, like significantly less. So it's like we're being held to a higher standard for a fund that is typically much lower than, you know, so threshold is usually lower than full funding.
Right.
Anyway, so it's odd. I mean,
I'm guessing-
we're going to check with KIPCON, but you know, I just wonder if you had any insights on that.
No, I wonder if that case, that's just based the timing of your projects. Maybe that's the case, the timing of your projects.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
I'm sorry, yeah, I don't have insight
no,
on
no, it's no worries. I just thought you might have some insight, but I'll check in with KIPCON. If I hear anything, I'll let our manager know and maybe they can communicate it back.
Okay. Oh, that's great. Who's your manager?
Laureen Young.
Oh, yeah, Lorraine's great. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah.
She is really good.
Yep.
I was wondering about the Corporate Transparency Act. Did you, is that just a matter of getting the information to them and that's the end of it? Or do you see that becoming more?
So right now, you don't have to do it. The government has gone back and forth and back and forth. It went through the courts. It was on, it was off, it was on, it was off. It's off again. It does require. I know it. I just talked about it again. It does require beneficial owners to put in their information, name, when it's on, but as of right now, it's off. So.
But the requirement too is to maintain it. So I guess that's what you're asking. It's an ongoing requirement when it's in effect. Right now, it's not, we're told, and you should be okay.
Okay.
Attorneys.
Because we had an email maybe a couple weeks ago that said it was back on. That's
Right.
what, but it's off again? Okay.
Yeah, you should have gotten something more recently then. Check check your emails from CAMCO.
Okay.
It's like a boomerang with
I know.
CPA. I just had somebody get mad at me because when it was back on, I sent out an election notice, and on my election or my candidacy forms and election notice, I put the CTA information because you're not allowed, if you're not going to put your information in according to the CTA, you can't be on the board.
Right.
So now this guy just emailed me and yelled at me, and he was like, "This isn't on." And I was like, "I sent it out before that even happened. I'm aware. I know."
But is that the end of it? You just register for them and that's the end of what they want to know?
So that's the end of it until you're either off the board or your like your driver's license expires, then you'd have to put a new one on.
Okay.
Yeah.
But hopefully they leave it off. Because I think from my understanding of it, they're looking for people who are funding terrorism and
yeah, it's just money laundering more or less.
money laundering.
I have a question about the payment portals. This is actually just a tactical question from one of the homeowners. They're wondering if they can set up the reoccurring payments, but that only the actual assessments go out and not like special assessments or fines.
So you mean like an ACH payment?
Yeah, so like I think you can set up automatic payments, right? Like I set it up once and I never go back in to pay, right? But for other community members, they get special assessments for snow. And I guess he doesn't want that to get paid automatically when they issue it. I don't know on the back end if the system like registers those different than regular due assessments. If there's a way to.
So I would ask them to reach out to AR. It's AR@CAMCOMGMT.com. I don't know the honest answer to that. I will say that from my experience, special assessments are paid through ACH, but there's notification before that. Like they're not just going to add a special assessment without the community's knowledge, and then CAMCO just starts, or the ACH just starts taking it out. Like that would never happen. But I would definitely direct that question to AR, even your community manager who can reach out to AR for you.
Okay.
But I
That's
don't
good.
believe that fines come out automatically.
No, it doesn't take everything automatically. There is a setting, but I'm just trying to figure out if they can make it different within a community, because if everyone else's are coming out automatically, would they be able to change it for him? I'm not sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what it's doing now too. It was just a
Mhm.
question that came by like a week
Yeah.
ago. So
Alternately,
Actually-
I might recommend that he have his bank, like, if all he wants to make sure he's paying is his fees, go on, he can sign up for ClickPay. So he controls that. That's not a pull, that's a push to
Okay.
the association's account, so he can do that.
Okay. All right.
And I am 89% sure that if he is signed up for ACH for his homeowners, if there was a special assessment put on, they would have to ask him to put it on for the special assessment as well, because that's a different payment.
Okay.
But
All right.
again, I would just double check with AR.
Okay. Cool. Sounds good.
Anybody else, any questions?
I have a question. We went through the insurance thing also where we had to raise our deductible. And we had seminars and everything else for the residents to attend. And so now we have this new policy. Should that master policy be on the portal?
Yes.
I would post it there. Yeah, not necessarily the whole policy, but your certificate of insurance at least.
Okay,
That
what
details it.
Yeah. And I also, if your insurance agent wrote a letter to the homeowners, I would post that on there as well.
Certificate. So the whole policy doesn't need to be on there.
No, you have a certificate of insurance that tells you
Okay.
your policy limits, your deductible. I think your
Okay.
deductible's on there.
Okay, I think we did that.
Yeah. And even when homeowners, mortgage companies request the master insurance policy, they're only requesting usually the certificate of insurance.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Welcome. Anyone else have any questions?
Begins and ends with A for 400.
The leader of the pack, dogs, goes by this Greek letter.
No. Okay, well, I would say thank you all very much for joining us tonight. We'll go ahead and grab your email addresses for everyone who registered, and we'll send you the slides.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, we appreciate you spending the time.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you very much.
Hi, Erin.
Bye,
Thank you so much.
Thanks for
Thank you.
working in your communities. We know it's not a high-paying job.
Minus 0.
Bye-bye. Have a good night.
Bye, guys.
Thank
Have
you.
a great night.
Thanks, Erin.